part of the agenda that talks about the trial of the 3 Tacoma police officers.
Here we go.
As it relates to them being charged with the murder of Manny Ellis. We have 3 people who are going to present this morning, and after their presentations, we'll take questions. We have about a little more than a half an hour to do this. If we need to go over a little bit, that's okay. And we'll start off with Lewis Cooper, who has been operating on the inside with the county and at the Emergency Management Center. Then we'll talk with Reverend Christopher, who's been kind of operating on the outside with community groups. And then we will hear from the mayor. Chief Avery is on this call, but he is not presenting. Bruce Danmeyer called and said he would be available. And I said not at this time, but the county executive also wanted to come and talk about this issue. But we're going to keep it with the 3 people that we've just identified. To you, Lewis Cooper, to kick this off. Lewis?
Good morning, family. I want to just briefly say one thing before I start my remarks. I mean, it's all together. I tell you, when my stomach turned, it was Wednesday afternoon, and I called Lyle, and I was in tears. I was crying because I told Lyle I didn't feel good about where this was going after the judge sent the jury back in for further deliberations. And mind you, as you all must be aware, that they were deliberating 2 days with 2 new jurors, but there was one holdout. And he said if they didn't come back on Thursday, he would decide that there would be a mistrial. And I told Lyle Wednesday at 5 o'clock on the phone, I was crying. And he was crying with me. I said, Lyle, this is not good, man. And I didn't want to put it out there. So I was hoping worst case scenario for a mistrial. And so, on the inside looking in, I've seen a lot, heard a lot. I don't want to get into that. But it has happened. And for all of us, the only thing I can say with all due respect to the chief and the mayor, Manny Ellis was killed. We know he was murdered. And Manny Ellis was put on trial. Not the 3 police officers. If you listen to everything that happened and read the sermon, he was put on trial. That's what the defense planned on doing. And the murderer walked away. Manny Ellis is not here with us, but I can say this. This is no different than any other process in the system that I've seen. We can look at cases all over the country where this has happened. And it's again happening again in our community. I love my community. This was I was humbled and honored to be able to sit inside to watch this day to day and help guide the things that they were trying to do to manage in case things, as they say, got out of hand. We weren't going to get out of hand. That's the bottom line. And I shared with them that, you don't want to overreact. There's not going to be any rioting unless somebody from the outside comes in and riot. So the agreement was that, they would observe and react the way they needed to, and that was the role that I had to play. And again, I was humbled to represent the collective and that portion of the community that trusted me to sit in there and look with a set of eyes as an advisor. And that was the role that I played. And Manny Ellis was murdered. He was put on trial, and the murderer walked away. And with all due respect to the job that the mayor has and Chief Moore, they got a heavy load to carry as well. But I will say, as a person that's been working in this field a long time and not been a cop, those 3 officers do not belong on the streets of Tacoma going forward. And that's what I'll say.
Thank you very much, Lewis, and thank you for your service, and thank you for the emotion and the intellect and the expertise that you brought to the EOC in representing the collective and many people in the Black community. And it was an interesting moment when 2 homeboys from Chicago who grew up about 8 blocks from one another sitting in Tacoma in tears over what we knew the eventual outcome was going to be. Let's now move to Reverend Christopher, and he'll talk to us about what the events were outside of the courtroom. Reverend Christopher. Reverend Christopher.
You're muted, dear.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lyle, and once again, good morning, family. Most of you know that there's a coalition that consists of the Tacoma Pierce County Black Collective and April of Randolph, NAACP, TMA, Urban League, and we also recently been, Dr. Gaines has participated in some of those virtual meetings that we have been having. That coalition evolved because of our desire to try to change the unjust practices of Tacoma Police Department and try to create some a true and genuine justice for everybody. So that group started meeting weekly once we got word that the trial of the three officers would start. And so even though Mr. Lau will give me credit for mobilizing the group, he has been our concierge from the jump. And so we have been meeting, and we basically anticipated that this would happen, especially as the trial began to go forward. And so we invited some of the up and coming groups, 2.0, the Black Panther Party, and some other groups. We invited them. They most of them are young groups, and our goal for meeting with them was not to muzzle them, but to encourage them that whatever they decide to do, that it would be a peaceful protest or peaceful rally, and they agreed to do so. Mr. Lau probably had the most visible presence with them. I think he was there every day that once they decided that they would rally out in front of the county court building. And so they decided to do that, and we were successful in, for most of the part, of getting most of those groups to not carry firearms to a peaceful protest. So we felt like that engaging them was definitely in the city's best interest. And so and I want to say that I was very proud of them. I got text messages. Those text messages was they was very angry. Emotions was all over the place. But when they showed up, they carried themselves. Very. They carried themselves well. Groups from Seattle wanted to do damage and destroy stuff, and some of our young people, stood up and said, "No, we're not going to do that here in Tacoma. If you guys really want to do that, go to University Place, go to the North End, et cetera, et cetera. But we're not tearing up this neighborhood." And so I think that when you see some of those young folks, pat them on the back, let them know how much we really appreciate them standing up and doing a peaceful protest. So we did rally in front of the courthouse. Like I say, Mr. Lau was there just about every week. I attended some of them. And then after that, the clergy was invited to one of our virtual meetings, and they requested a prayer vigil that was held at Shiloh, and Mr. Lau made some opening statements, and then some of the faith leaders had prayer. Uh, and our whole goal was to try to send a message, that we do have the faith that God could get us through this. Justice will be served, et cetera, et cetera. And so we actually prayed more so for the family, but we also prayed for the police officers and their families. And then we prayed for the city and the county, especially our dear mayor, uh, uh, who carried the bulk of the burden. And so we did that. We kind of dropped the communication in inviting the new groups that we befriended to that meeting, but we got past that, and we're back hand in hand. And so we did the prayer vigil. I thought it went well from the comments that I have received. They also thought the prayer vigil went well. And then the clergy wanted to make a press release in regards to the verdict of innocent for the 3 police officers. And so we had that Friday at Shiloh at 1 o'clock. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend. One of my members, most of you know him, Frank Barkins, was being sworn in as a council person in UP, and so I was not able to make it. But the press release went well. We'll be doing some fine tuning as we move forward, and there'll be and so that's where we're at now. We think we're in a good place, but one of the messages that folks are saying from that are on the outside is that we need to let them know that this is not over. There's still some steps that we can take to try to bring justice. I'm almost done. The mayor invited Mr. Lau, myself, Bishop White, to her press conference, and we had prayer with the mayor and some of those that was gathered with her. And let me say that, and I don't have any acts of the mayor in my last 2 months of being a senior pastor, that she did an awesome job. And some of the pastors, some of the people in the community called me and they talked about how powerful that message was by the mayor. And I said to them, I said that's our mayor. Her strength is that she speaks from her heart, and she did that, and that did galvanize the city, and so not the whole city, but we know that it did touch a lot of people, and we even used piggyback on some of the things that she said in our press release. So we're the coalition to have another meeting, and then and talk about next step, and then as Mr. Lau give us direction, we'll bring it back to the Black Collective family. So thank you for your time.
Before I turn it over to the mayor, I just want to say one quick thing. We can talk to each other, no matter whether you're on the far left of the black political spectrum or you're on the far right. We can talk to each other. We can talk to young people. You got to show up. People said they got 100 text messages a day. How could that be? I said that's absolutely hyperbole. That's an exaggeration. Well, for the last 8 days, I've gotten 100 text messages a day. And so you have to be there. You have to show up. You have to engage. And we can have Ceasefire and the NAACP in the same room. We can have New Generations 2.0 and E. Philip Randolph in the same room. We are some badass people. We have different opinions about stuff, but we can talk to each other and we can stick together, and nobody has broken one damn window. Mayor, your turn.
Thank you, Lyle, and good morning, family. I couldn't think of a better place to be on this Saturday morning than with all of you. Um, let me start by saying great appreciation to both Lyle and Reverend Christopher and the leadership of the TMA, Bishop White, um, for being out front um, and and really pulling everyone together. I think that alone made a very big difference in what has happened in the city over the last couple of days. But that's all, and the way that they followed the trial. Let me also thank Lewis Cooper for his leadership, not only for what he did here for the Black Collective, but being a part of our Community Policing Advisory Council. I'm working directly with the city and the police department. And if I forgot anything, please charge it, as they say in church, to my head and not to my heart. I am grateful for the role every one of you have played coming up to this moment, and what you will do after this. I also want to start with the caveat that this morning I show up as, you all see me, y'all know who I am. But this morning I have to be here as your mayor. I have to show up as your mayor, and I have to be measured in what I say as your mayor. And I'll just be blunt. There are lawsuits coming to the city. And I want to be respectful of that. When I took an oath of the city, I took an oath not to be Victoria Wooders, not to express my personal opinions and thoughts, but to make sure that I put the city first. This is one of those times. For those of you who saw the press conference or read my statement, I stand by every word that was on that piece of paper. And the reason I was able to be authentic in the delivery is because, for the most part, it represented everything I wanted to say in the moment as the mayor of Tacoma. I want to come back at a later date with you all and revisit all the work that we've done as a city, and all of the work that we're going to continue to do as a city to make sure that we, as an entire city, but in our police department, are fair and just, and trusted. I will take a moment, although he's not speaking, like Chief has a lot of work to do in the coming days, but I do also want to thank the Chief for his leadership. He wasn't here when this happened, but he certainly is bearing the brunt of the aftermath of everything that's happened, including inheriting a police department where that is feeling everything that is happening. So I just want to say how grateful I am and how lucky we all are, how blessed we are to have the incredible chief that we have at this time. I will also stand here, be here this morning and say that I know that there are a lot of feelings about our city manager, Elizabeth Pauley, and what she has done versus what we want her to do. And I will say that if you don't know her closely, I will stand by that woman at any moment. I have a tough job, but she has a really tough job, and she does it with grace and compassion. And so as you think about how certain people should be handling certain parts of this, I just want to remind you that everybody is bound by certain laws, and they've got to do the right thing for the city. And sometimes on the outside, that doesn't necessarily feel like the thing you want them to do. But I want you all to know that I have a lot of faith, and so does the council, in Elizabeth Pauley and her leadership. And right now, I think she is taking a good brunt of the backlash. So I just want you all to continue to lift her up too. I think what's most important, and the thing you want to know most is what is next? What happens now? There are statements and all kinds of information on the City of Tacoma website. What I will share with you today is that TPD has completed its internal investigation. On Thursday, they said they would get it done in the next 24 hours. And that investigation has now been turned over to the chief for review. The chief has made a commitment that within 10 days of the jury's announcement, which was just last Thursday, that he will make his decision on potential discipline up to and including termination. There are two sides of this. There was the criminal trial that the jurors got to weigh in on, but then there is the internal investigation, the administrative investigation, which has a different set of rules that the chief needs to hold it up to. So there could have still been policy violations. There could be other things that happen as it relates to the rules and laws of the police department. And so chief has promised within 10 days he will read that entire document, and then he will come out and make his and make his statement and explain his decision. Just so you understand, so once that happens, once the chief determines what his decision is, if the discipline includes any financial impacts to the officer, i.e. termination, and anything that touches money for them, the chief is bound by law, the city is bound by law to hold a pre-disciplinary hearing, which is called a Laudermill hearing. And he has to give them 72 hours notice for that hearing. And then that hearing will happen, and chief will make any final decisions after that hearing within 14 days. And these decisions will be shared with the public. So that is the next step in the process. And so with that, I will just again say thank you to you all. This has been a difficult time. But I know my faith tells me that God doesn't make any mistakes, and we are all where we're supposed to be in the moment to be able to lead our city through, and not to just get over what happened, but to make real change around what needs to happen. And the one thing I want to remind us all as we think about the change that we need to make, I recognize that at the city, we have a lot of work to do. But I also recognize if we had everything perfectly in place, there is also other systems like the court system. There are other systems that need to be fixed. And so as we think about where to channel our energy, I want us to have a plan and be thoughtful about where we need to make the impact to get the kind of change and the kind of outcome that we as Black people want to see and believe and know in our community. So with that, Lyle, I think that's all I've got, but I will turn it over to you, and I will spend the rest of my time with you all this morning. Thank you so much.
I would like to also recognize three other people, which is very important. And one is Candace White, who is on this call, who has been an integral part of this process, her being present inside county government and helping process these issues over the last year or so. James Watson is a young man who runs the Watson Signature Events Center on Bridgeport Way. Was absolutely the glue that kept the outside efforts together. He was front and center every time the bell rung. He had his audio equipment. He had bunches of stuff to set up. He was always there. And if we see Candace or we see James Watson, tell him thanks. And just one last thing before we take questions. Much of this is about showing up. I mean, if you show up, you suit up, and come to play, we can figure a lot of stuff out. And we can figure out our differences, and we can figure out what we agree on, and we can figure out what path we can take, and what things we have to check out on, what things we can move forward on. And this is whether we're talking about education, economic development, politics, or the social and legal justice system. It's about showing up. It's about engaging. It's about bringing the expertise that we have to the table. This is not a theoretical exercise. These are practical day-to-day issues. And we have some heroes in this community who show up on politics, who show up on education, who show up on economic development, and surely they show up on social and legal justice. So let's ask our community on this call now to ask any of us questions that you might have about the trial. And Ellen will recognize your hand.
Okay, please, after you ask your question, would you please lower your hand so I know you've already asked. So, Les?
Yeah, so the aftermath of the trial, I was at work Thursday and participated in the gathering at MLK and 11th. That was pretty much initiated by the family and Tacoma Action Coalition. There was a gathering at the mural for Manny, and there was a lot of frustration. There's a lot of frustration in the community and the folks that showed up due to the lack of evidence that was introduced during the trial. That was pretty obvious from the gate. And with that frustration and with what I've been witnessing at city council meetings for the past several months, there's been an influx of, racist folks stepping up to the microphone, making, derogatory statements toward black folks and Jewish folks. And I'm wondering, when we've seen all these aftermaths of these trials and the destruction that goes on in the cities, what is the city aware of and the police chief aware of these groups that could be gathering to incite some of this damage? I mean, we've got 120 million.
We got your question. No. Look, we have your question. Let the mayor answer the question. What is the city going to do? So this is not a long narrative, Les. We got a lot of people.
I was damn near finished.
Madam Mayor.
Well, I mean, obviously, the police department does its job in making sure that we have as much intel as we can get about what's happening out there. Now, I won't share the details of what we know at this time. I'll leave that to the chief if he wants to. I should say what we know at this time, and I didn't mean to say it like that because I don't have any direct knowledge of some outside intel that people are trying to come to our community at this time. As it relates to those people who have been showing up at council meetings, they're only showing up virtually, and we don't even believe they're from Tacoma. It's that virtual setting, and it's been happening both in Tacoma and in cities across America. So what I would say is that at this point, I've not heard. Let me just say, I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard any direct threats of people coming outside of Tacoma. I do know that Friday night, there were a group of people who came down from Seattle after the families rally and after Tacoma did its thing. There was a group of Seattle people that came down. Again, shout out to Candace Wesley and Ceasefire for containing the Seattle group, letting them do what they wanted to do, and then sending them back to Seattle. But I don't have any intel that anything else is happening directly aimed at our city.
Thank you. Ms. Regina?
Yes, just follow up. The next step would be a civil trial against them. Is that correct? And also there should be some discussion at that case about the judicial misconduct, the outrage and the bias that was presented. Following up on that, have you heard about the next step, Mayor?
Yeah, so the family filed a civil lawsuit against the city of Tacoma before the trial even started. And so, but that lawsuit was put on hold. The civil lawsuit was put on hold to the criminal trial concluded. So I obviously will assume that the civil trial will then be picked up and will continue. Because we haven't heard from them, I don't know directly what they'll be suing us for. Obviously, what happened in the courtroom is something we had no control over, so they may issue a civil suit to a different set. I don't know if they can do it to Superior Court. I don't know if they will, if they would, if the family will actually reach out and file a civil case against the officers directly. So that I don't know. All I know is that there is a civil case pending for the city of from the family, and we will hear from them once they pick the civil case back up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Archibald?
Yes, good morning and thank you, family. All I can say is the mayor, the chief of police, Brother Cooper, Lyle. I'm just using those names as an example. When we don't have the responsibilities that other people have, we don't always understand the behind the scenes operations. I just want to say that as those examples, they are prime examples of expertise and who have done their utmost best, who's accountable to not just us, to everybody, and they go to bat for us first. We don't have anything better than that. So I applaud those individuals and our social justice team. I know, and it's a frustration, and I'm trying to contain my energy because that's how I feel real deep. But I have to give respect to what has been done. It's not us not doing what we need to do. It is the system. And my brain goes directly to the judge. I can't explain it exactly, but the judge opened the gate for that verdict to be determined. And then you send them back for deliberations and set two people. So I'm just saying, okay, calm down, Linda. It was deliberate. It was deliberate. Thank you, guys.
Linda, we got you. Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you.
Linda. Thanks, Linda. Bill Dickens, you're next.
Thank you very much. Question directed to Lyle. Lyle, you were quoted in the Seattle Times as expressing your dissatisfaction with the judicial misbehavior of the presiding judge.
Yeah.
Are you planning to write an op-ed that you can further elaborate on that in the near future?
That could happen if I think it's something that will assist the process. I appreciate you recognizing the Seattle Times and suggesting about the opinion piece. We'll see, working through Reverend Christopher's coalition before any of us do things publicly, individually. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Kent Kill?
Yes, thank you, everyone. I'm feeling everything that everyone's feeling about the disgust and dismay of what has happened. I will say that I feel mobilized now to do whatever small things I can do within the circles of people that I'm in. And Lyle, I think you understand that, what I'm talking about. And be the person in those rooms to express the disgust very clearly and very openly, and do what I can to make some movement in that regard. The one thing I would ask, though, and I appreciate the peaceful protest, but if you got all in your conversations, if there's any talk about things going violent, I would really hope that the suggestion isn't made that they go to University Place to do that violence. I hope that you understand. And what my last comment, what I'm going to do now, though, now that I've heard that as a possibility, I'm going to be working with our chief of police, and we're going to be ready for anything that anybody might do that. So that's my responsibility. And just know that if the statement is made, University Way is going to be ready.
And I think that was just a poorly chosen set of words. We would never suggest anybody go to university places. We feel strongly about protecting our university places. We feel about the city of Tacoma, and we're going to work to make sure that our protests are heard, they're clear, our points are made, and we don't want violence anywhere. And that was just a poor choice of words. And sometimes around the family table, we do that. I apologize, Kent. And you have never failed us in bringing our message through in those rooms that we don't get to be in. So just a poor choice of words, and we respect University Place. I apologize.
Thank you, Al. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Al. Margaret?
Hi. This may be for the mayor, but I'm not sure. It might be something the police chief would answer. But what will the city do? I mean, after hearing the trial and the testimony, what will the city do to ensure that police officers are trained before they go out on the streets? Because what I heard was that they weren't trained in spit hoods and hobbles and some of the tactics that they use during the use of force. So how will we know that officers are fully trained on tactics that they use before they apply them?
The chief question, I know the chief is listening, but really is focused on the investigation over the next couple of days. So I don't know if the chief wants to weigh in. I will say this. In all the work that we're doing within our police department, the transport police department, we have added additional training. We have also, we've adopted a can't wait in the city of Tacoma. So, and I think the part where it's one thing to train people, it's one for them to implement the training. And I think the best way for us to monitor that is through dash cams and body cams. And so now that we have all of that online, there are ways to check and make sure that they're abiding by the rules that we've put in place. But this was, as we get into the specific training, that would be something the chief would need to answer. And if he doesn't chime in today, what I'd ask is that when we come back to really give an overall presentation about what we've done and what we're doing, that would be a great time for the chief and I to come back together and kind of explain to you what's different now since the death of Manny Ellis.
Thank you. Ms. Corey, you still have your hand up?
No, I put my comment in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Carlton?
Yes. I don't want to echo everything that's been said, but I will say that this is a moment where the law enforcement are protected. They have other protection in the legal system that the average citizens don't. And so this is a time that we also have to use this as a learning experience to say that we need to come together. We need more of us to go out in the community and bring more people in to stay together and take care of our community. Because actually what happened was the entire black community was slapped in the face. Because what happened is we had Manny Ellis's background on trial and the officer's background who were the actual people on trial. We didn't even go into that. And that's not right. And so in all actuality, this is a learning experience because we can't change what happened the other day. Then it already happened. It's what we do going forward. And I think one of the things has to be, we have to start educating our young people. We have to start educating our communities. And we have to do everything that we can to update our communities, bring our communities together, and keep us strong. So I just wanted to say that. And Mayor, I appreciate you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Carlton, and ditto to that. Ms. Eve?
Good morning. Thank you, Ellen. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I think Lyle said it best. We must show up at City and Pierce County study and council sessions. We've studied enough. We know that racism is built into the DNA of America. We know this in every major institution, and that we have to keep continuously showing up, testifying at city council meetings, listening in on city and Pierce County study sessions so that we are familiar with what is taking place in both of those areas. And one example of persistent and consistent testifying at city council meetings and so forth, what that has brought for the city of Tacoma is the alternative response team. It has been 8 years of persistent, consistent testifying at city council meetings, meeting individually with city council members, writing letters, asking questions. That's what it's going to take. We already know the racism is there. We can't continue to debate whether it's going to end or not. Perhaps it'll get a little bit better in some cases, but it's there. And we have to recognize it and we have to continue the fight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Eve. Ms. Tanisha, you still have your comment? Okay.
No, ma'am. Well, yeah, I do. I just want to say, I know that this is not an easy time for any person who's in the political field, or Chief Avery, and so I definitely know that they have some heavy decisions to make. I just hope that with the community feeling the way they do, because when I heard about the verdict and listened to it, I felt defeated. And normally I'm the type of person who would be out there marching, and I couldn't leave my home. And I remember I told my mom, I was like, why do they hate us so much? And I just hope that we continue to lean on each other during this time and, you know, keep Manny's family in our prayers, but also continue to lift his name up as we proceed and make his death not just a victim of what the police decided to do that night, but also make him somebody that is better than what they tried to portray him during that trial, or how they portrayed him during that trial, because Manny was a brother, he was a son, he was a father, he was an uncle. He was not the man that they tried to portray him during that trial. So I just hope moving forward, we continue to lift his name up and the positive light that he was, regardless of his past, his struggles with drug abuse, things like that, because he was a good man, he was a black man, and we matter. We all matter. And Manny could have been any of us. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Tanisha, that's a good comment for us to close out on. And there may be a couple other hands, but this is a good comment for us to close out on. We're losing people on the call. I will I'm gonna give anything. I will ask the mayor if she has any last comments she wants to make, and then I'm gonna ask Reverend Montgomery if he would give us our closing.
I'll just say thank you. Thank you to all of you. The trial may be over, but it's not over. And I just want to be really clear about that. I anticipate, much like Lester described, for even more hate to come this way. So I just ask you all, and I think you're right, Tanisha, you closed it out perfectly. Lots of people says we got to continue to show up. Your presence sometimes, not even sometimes, but your presence most of the time allows Keith and I and Kiara and soon to be Jamaica. It helps us. Please know that your presence, it helps us. You may not see it out front, but trust me, it makes a difference. ask you all just to keep this whole community lifted up in prayer. Please keep me lifted up in prayer, and our police chief and our city manager. We are all people of faith. And I don't know, if I didn't have faith, I don't know where I'd be right now in this moment. So again, thank you all so much. I love all of you and I'm grateful for you all, and the work that you do on behalf of Black folks every day in Pierce County. So thank you all so much.
Reverend Montgomery, would you give us our closing, please?
Father, we thank you again for allowing us to come together as the Black collective family in the unity of the Spirit, in the bond of peace. Father, we thank you for our Mr. Lyle Sam and all of the committees that support him and undergird him. God, even now, as we face the beginning of winter and the situations of darkness associated with us during this time when verdicts have been passed down concerning Manny Ellis, and it's a dark time, it's a cold time. God, give us peace to let us know that there is light, that there is a way, that the family coming together and embracing one another and supporting one another. God bless our family. Bless Manny Ellis's family. God bless the family and the fabric of Tacoma, our mayor and police chief and fire chief and all of the leaders in this civic arena and the political arena. God, we ask for great grace to give us the peace and power and glory to learn from this, to grow from this, to step from this, and to be better by this. In Jesus' name, amen.
Hey, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Amen.
Don't let them take our joy away from us.
Right.
That's right. Hey, Lyle, I forgot to say also, and thank you for praying it. Please, you all wrap your arms around the Ellis family. I know you all are already, but forget all. Don't forget all of us, but they are suffering the most.
Yeah. Right.
And to Bill Dickens, the presents that you bought for me for Christmas, you can just there you go. Dropbox right by my door, and I hope you got all the right sizes.
I think it's in the mail. Lyle, I think it's in the mail.
No, he sent it to the wrong address.
Wait, look, on purpose, Linda, on purpose.
On purpose. Your neighbors, go knock on your neighbor's door.
They were gonna open it and talk about, what is this Black Lives Matter sweatshirt for? Who's that for?
Hey, and if I get a package from Les Pro, I'm gonna have somebody else open it.
Hey, if it's got white powder coming out the side of it, don't open it, brother. It's not me. Not for me. Hey, you know how they do that? Hey, that's COINTELPRO is still around, my brother.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Love you guys. Happy holidays.
Bye, Linda. All right.
Hey, Mr. Lyle.